and welcome to Upon Further Review. I'm Josh Aubrey. Well, the annual Masters tournament wrapped up this past weekend with Patrick Reed slipping on the green jacket. In the past, when I was doing the show with Nate Hirsch, Nate would always get me to tell a little bit about my trip to Augusta that week. And so in honor of Nate, I'm going to mention a little bit about what happened on Wednesday for those of you out there who might be a little interested. We have some pictures to go along with some of my stories. So every year for the past, I'd say 12 or 13 years, I've had the opportunity to go at least one day to the Masters with my son Kyler, who has gotten to know plenty of the golfers on the PGA Tour. Well, this year was no different. We were able to go to the par 3 last year. It was rained out for the first time ever. This year, it looked like it was going to rain, but it ended up with some pretty clear skies, and we had a great afternoon at Augusta National. Started off, we got there, and Kyler saw that Jordan Spieth and Rory McIlroy were out on the course, and I said, do you want to go there or go to the driving range? And he said he wanted to go to the driving range for a second. We saw a crowd, which usually means Tiger Woods is on the prowl, and so we went over to the driving range, and there he was. We got in, and we were right there behind him. A couple friends of mine saw us on TV, took some screenshots and sent it to us. We were right behind him, and Kyler was real excited and stood there and watched for about 15 or 20 minutes as he was hitting his shots. There towards the end, I could see Tiger looking over there at Kyler. Kyler was waving at Tiger. And all of a sudden, his caddy, Joe LaCava, comes walking over with a glove that Tiger signed and said, hey, Tiger wants to give this to your son. So he gave it to Kyler. Kyler started squealing really loud. Tiger started laughing. It was pretty funny. That just kind of started the day, getting Tiger's glove in a great way. We go back onto the course. We ended up finding Rory McIlroy coming up, and Ricky Fowler actually coming up number 9, which is right there when you go in. So we watched them come up to 9. He talked to Ricky. Jordan Spieth went through, and then the next group was Jon Rahm and Rory McIlroy. Well, they came up and they both stopped and talked to Kyler, signed autographs or signed their gloves, gave them to him. So we're out there for, maybe 15 minutes, and we've got Tiger Woods' autograph glove, Rory McIlroy's autograph glove, and Jon Rahm, who both of them obviously finished in the top 10. Tiger not so well, but still quite a moment for there. We made our way over to the par 3 shortly thereafter. We've got, thank goodness, some people there with the green jackets who've seen us come every year. They've helped escort us down there to right next to the 9 green. For those of you who don't know, they play 9 holes there at the par 3 on Wednesday. They usually then get shuttled off from the number 9 green, take them back to the clubhouse or wherever they're going. And so we've been able to be lucky enough for them to help put us right there at number 9. So we get to see every group come off the green at that moment. So it's a good spot to go. Plus the number 9 green was pretty exciting this year as Jack Nicklaus's grandson ended up making a hole-in-one, and Kyler almost had a heart attack when that happened. That was a pretty exciting moment as well. But prior to that, we were able to get some autographs and pictures with the likes of Masters champs like Bubba Watson, who actually hasn't been real outgoing with Kyler in the past. This time, I don't know what was going on, but he was in a good mood. He came up, he had a pink glove, he signed that for Kyler, took some pictures with him and Wesley Bryant, who won the Heritage last year, his first time playing at the Masters. We also had some opportunities to talk and get some more autographs with Rory McIlroy, with Jordan Spieth. We've gotten to know him and his family through the years. His mom and his grandpa, which is his mom's dad, were both there, talked to us for a while. After that, there were a few other groups that came through that Kyler talked to and got some autographs from. But then the big ones were when Jack and Gary Player and Tom Watson came through, which was towards the end of the round. And the excitement from the hole-in-one and the par 3 was then followed by the 3 of them each coming up to Kyler and spending a little time with him. Took some pictures. Gary Player came running up to him up the hill. The guy's in his mid-80s and probably, no, not probably, can definitely do more push-ups and is probably in better shape than I am. He came up, took some really good pictures with Kyler, thanks to Frank Fortune, by the way, who dropped by at the right time to get some good pics. Also, Jack Nicklaus stopped by, talked to him. They both said, we remember you from years coming here. And I said, you know, we've been coming since the early 2000s off and on, but have been here the last 12 or 13 years. They couldn't be nicer. Tom Watson ends up winning, of all things, the par 3 at 68 years old. He came by, took some pictures, talked to Kyler for a little while. So anyway, so that's just some of our big day. It's such a pleasure to be able to go with Kyler to these events and get to be his wingman and sit there with him, because if not, I wouldn't get a chance to see some of these guys, and just to see them interact with him has always been a neat experience for me through the years as well. All right, well, we'll have plenty more coming up in the show. Had a chance to talk with Chad Lunsford and Scot Sloan about how things are going for spring football at Georgia Southern. We also had a chance to sit down with Rodney Hennon to see how things are going for baseball, coming off a couple wins this past weekend on the road at Little Rock. They have a midweek game with Kennesaw and then back on the road again this weekend. Also some high school soccer action, a pretty exciting game over in Brooklet, Southeast Bullock, taking on Groves with a chance of making it to the postseason on the line. We'll get out for highlights of that as well. But before we go to break, I'd like to remind you, for any legal advice you may have in the Statesboro Bullock County area, we have the man for you to call, Lovett Bennett Jr., attorney at law PC, Lovett's office located in downtown Statesboro.
No credit refused isn't just an offer, it's a way of business and has been for over 100 years. No banks, no ridiculous credit requirements, just local Badcock store owners who treat you right and give you credit when others won't. It's never been easier to express your style and love your home.
Well, spring practice continuing for the Georgia Southern football team. They'll wrap things up with the annual Blue-White game coming up Saturday afternoon at Paulson Stadium. I had a chance to talk with head coach Chad Lunsford and defensive coordinator Scot Sloan to see how things have been going for the Eagles.
Things have went well. You know, we intentionally went slow over the spring, implementing, you know, a new offense and defensive scheme. I thought it was important that we really focused on our fundamentals and techniques, and you know, along the way put in our offense and defense, and just making sure that we're getting the culture and the mentality back to where it needs to be at Georgia Southern. But honestly, if you ask me, I think we're right where I thought we would be, but we have gone slow with it, and I don't have a problem with that. I think it's very important that our guys understand that it's a process and it's not about just overnight success, and we need to keep working at what we want to do.
What have you been the happiest about?
A couple things. Offensive line's play. I think we've got 10 to 11 guys that are really competing for the 5 spots. And throughout the whole team, it's been open competition at every position. You know, I told the guys we're going to learn from our past, and our past is 2-10. And so nothing is locked up. And so we've had a lot of great competition at all positions, but especially at the offensive line. And I think you know, when we get through with spring, we're going to have a good 2 deep, and I feel like that'll be one of our strengths going into the fall.
What's been your biggest concern?
Biggest concern, I think, is just the growing pains of, you know, new terminology with offense, defense. I think it'll come, but it's just one of those things where we got to understand that it's going to take a little bit of time, because our guys are just getting used to new stuff. And even though it may be a lot of the same type of things, it's, you know, it's coached differently, it's talked about differently, and so, you know, we got to be really patient with our guys right now. But I think when we hit in the fall, it'll really start to speed up, and I know we'll be ready come September 1st.
When you throw a lot of coaches together, you've got a good feeling about how they mesh. You've been able to see them in the spring. How do you think things are going for them?
I really think very well. You know, I felt really good when everyone was hired. I felt like we had a good staff. I know going through spring that all of those types of feelings have been confirmed. I think we work well together. I think guys are all on the same page. Our whole coaching staff want to be at Georgia Southern. They want to do a great job at Georgia Southern, and and they're learning the expectations of Georgia Southern, and a lot of that was explained to them before they even got here. And then some guys have already been here and they knew about it. So I think all that's meshing well. We got a lot of good feedback from our players and from recruits, just talking about how we seem like we've been together for a long time. And so I think the staff chemistry is something that's really good for us right now.
And for you personally, being the head coach and now having taken them through the spring, have you seen anything of your, as far as the coaching goes, that you've kind of adapted to or changed that maybe you didn't see coming?
I think the biggest piece with me is just being able to look at the overall picture. Something that I was thrown into last year with the interim role of trying to look at the big picture, but also manage guys that that I didn't choose as my staff. This has been one of those experiences where I have been able to look at the big picture and feel good about things, and I've been able to find my niche in the offense and defensive roles where I need to help, where I need to manage, and then also taking a big ownership in the special team stuff. So I think the spring's been really good for me because that's been able for me to be able to learn my coaches and them also learn my expectations. So I think spring's been good for all of us in those areas.
Well, Coach, give us a little update on how things are going defensively and how the new system's being implemented.
Right now we're making progress, and it's anytime you transition schemes, there's always some growing pains and baby steps that you have to take, but I feel good about the progress that the guys have made and the way they embraced it and the way they're flying around. That's the thing is we told them that we could correct mistakes from a schematic standpoint off of film, but the things that we couldn't compromise was our effort and how hard we played and our attentiveness to chasing the football. So I'm very pleased as far as the way that the guys are chasing the football.
I would imagine you also have a better indication of what you have as far as personnel goes right now. What do you think?
Yeah, right now I think our personnel is starting to settle in. There's still a couple guys that we may experiment a little bit with this last week of practice, these last 4 days, just to, we know what we've got in them at the position they've been working so far in spring, but we may tweak a couple guys, but for the most part, I think personnel is starting to settle in pretty well. The biggest thing, I think, transitioning to a 3-4 defense is just, matching the coverages and things like that because of the different components of playing in a 4-linebacker scheme instead of a 3-linebacker scheme. So, but it's been really good. I think the guys have made a tremendous amount of progress from practice 1 to where we are today. And then the biggest thing we talked to them about this morning in meetings was capitalizing on these last 4 opportunities, because once the spring games come and gone, then it'll just be a matter of how much film study they can do and then how much progress they can make in the weight room going into training camp in August.
Putting the 3-4 in, how is that, do you feel, helpful for what personnel Georgia Southern has, or do you feel like it's just the scheme that you feel comfortable and you can work with what you have?
I think the thing that the 3-4 gives is it gives a lot of complexity that the offense has to deal with. In today's game with spread offenses, all the motions, the spread stuff, the formations into the boundary, it allows a little bit more flexibility to match numbers as well as to be able to get guys that can run and strike. At this level, you can find a lot of guys that are in that 6'6", 6'1", 200-pound guys. As far as from a recruiting standpoint, that can run and strike, as opposed to finding a plethora of defensive linemen. Those better upper end defensive linemen end up going to play at the Power 5 level, and so for us, from a recruiting standpoint, finding guys that can run and strike, we can just about find those in every high school throughout Georgia.
Once again, the blue-white game taking place Saturday afternoon at Paulson Stadium. Should be a good crowd on hand for that one. All right, stay with us. Coming up next, we'll head over to the baseball diamond to talk to Georgia Southern baseball head coach Rodney Hennon.
To stay ahead, a parent has to really be on the go and stop for school, stop for sports, stop for an intervention. But you don't have to stop for banking. To stay ahead with mobile online banking, bank ahead with Queensborough National Bank and Trust.
See Jeremy Reagan and the staff at Queensborough National Bank and Trust, South Main Street in Statesboro.
A sports injury can stop you in your tracks. At Optum Orthopedics, our specialized physicians and staff use advanced orthopedic procedures with one specific goal in mind: to get you back to you. If you have a sports injury, request an evaluation. Experience the Optum difference.
Family Internal Medicine Associates of Statesboro, providing primary care for Statesboro area patients since 1998, providing complete physicals, complete sports physicals, Medicare wellness exams, full diabetes treatment, and education from lifestyle changes to oral medications to insulin pump therapy. In-house dermatology, in-house circulation tests and ultrasounds, in-house lab. And introducing our new nurse practitioner, Melissa Beasley, as we now accommodate same-day or next-day appointments to serve your needs. Family Internal Medicine Associates of Statesboro, where we care. Well, the Georgia Southern Eagles coming off a couple of wins on the road at Little Rock this past week. They have a midweek game with Kennesaw State and then get back to Sunbelt play. It's been a wild season for head coach Rodney Hennon, who's had to deal with some injuries and a lot of youth for this year's team. Pitching has been one of the strengths. We had a chance to sit down with him and ask him about how things are going just past the midway point in the season.
Hey, our guys are playing hard and battling. We had two big wins over the weekend out at Little Rock, and we got a big week in front of us, obviously with Kennesaw midweek, and then we'll hit the road again this weekend to South Alabama.
So far, let's start with the bats. How do you feel like you're doing there?
Well, obviously we've had our struggles offensively, throughout the first half of the season, and but guys are continuing to play hard. I think obviously we need to be more aggressive at times, and hopefully some of these young players, as they continue to get at bats as they have the first half of the season, are certainly going to pick it up and perform better down the stretch.
Pitching wise, how do you feel like that's gone, and have you had any pleasant surprises there?
Well, our starting pitching, I think if you look at the season up to this point, has done a pretty good job as a whole. We pitched really well over the weekend out in Little Rock, and I think you're starting to see some guys in the bullpen really show some improvement as the season has progressed and moved along. Some guys that struggled earlier in the year now are showing a little more consistency and being able to take upon some bigger roles and some bigger situations for us. So that's encouraging moving down the stretch.
I know you sometimes kind of break the season up into different parts. Where are you right now, and how would you assess where you are at this point?
Well, I guess the last game of the Coastal Series, kind of was the midway point in the year. So we're early on in the second half, and again it was big going on the road. That actually ended up being our first road Sunbelt Series, having moved the App State Series here. So you got to be able to win on the road, and it was good to be able to do that at Little Rock. I think we've got some momentum right now, heading into this next week.
I know a lot of times you kind of have to tinker with your lineup throughout the year, as well as your bullpen, to try to kind of figure out who's going to go where, and at some point you probably stop doing that and say, here's where we are. Where are you as far as that goes?
Well, we probably had to do more of that this year in the first half of the season for several reasons. One, the new players, the youth, with this team, and then 2, you know, a couple of injuries that we had as well forced us to move some guys around and try some different guys. I think we have a better feel for what guys are able to do now, and some of the roles, both with our position players and with the guys on the pitching staff heading into the second half. And, you know, a couple of guys in Austin Thompson and Tyler Martin that, you know, are kind of, you know, week to week right now to see where they're at, but a chance that they can come back. And, you know, a Jacob Parker, you know, who's been out for several weeks on the mound, you know, hopefully has a chance to come back as well this second half. And, you know, we certainly dealt with a lot of adversity early on, but I'm a big believer in, you know, that's what makes a team better. That's what makes you stronger when you get through it on the other end. And these guys have continued to fight and play hard, and you know, we got a chance to get some guys back and also you know, have a better idea of what some other guys can do. Some guys have had a chance to play more than maybe they would have, you know, were it not for those injuries. So in the end, we're going to be a stronger team from it. I'm confident in that, and looking forward to seeing what we can do down the stretch here.
So next up for Georgia Southern, they'll be hosting Kennesaw State this week in the midweek game, and then on the road at South Alabama this weekend. All right, well, stay with us. Coming up next, we'll get into some high school action.
Hey, Miss Thompson, everything's fine. It's going to be no problem. I'll have you done in a few minutes.
My name is Paisley Nordhoff, part owner of Complete Car Care, and I want you to come see me.
The Medical Center Pharmacy on Grenade Street is proud to be your Health Mart pharmacy in Statesboro. The Medical Center Pharmacy, locally owned and serving this community for 50 years, is open 364 days a year. The pharmacists at Medical Center know there's nothing more important than your family's well-being. That's why they take the time to know their customers, explain their medications, and answer any questions. The Medical Center Pharmacy, your Health Mart pharmacy. Health Mart, caring for you and about you.
Well, the Southeast Bullock Yellow Jackets wrapped up the regular season on Monday as they were hosting Groves. The girls ended up winning that one 5-0 for the boys. It was 1-0 late in the game. They end up getting a late goal to put the game into overtime, and then in the first overtime session, a PK by Danny Healy ends up sealing the deal. A couple nice saves by Mitchell Waters helping things out. Let's get out and take a look at some of the highlights from the boys' game. The Southeast Bullock Yellow Jackets hosting Groves with a state playoff berth on the line. No score late in the first half. Just under 10 seconds to go, and one mistake leads to trouble for Southeast. Jorge Lopez with the goal, giving Groves a 1-0 lead with only 6 seconds left in the half. We move to the second half. 4:15 left. Alan Luther with the throw, and Christian Matthews with the back header into the goal, tying the game at 1-1 in dramatic fashion. Mitchell Waters hoping to keep it 1-1 and send the game into overtime as Groves will take a nice shot, but Waters with the stop. Southeast with a chance to take the lead with a minute left, but can't connect, and we go to overtime. In overtime, Danny Healy will come up with the ball. He'll get knocked down. A penalty in the box will result in a PK, and Healy will calmly put this in the bottom right side for the goal. Southeast Bullock up 2-1, trying to hold on. Groves will get a free kick, but check out the play by Mitchell Waters in the goal, fully extended, and Southeast wins 2-1. Up next, the girls will begin play. They'll take on Islands. They're the number 3 seed, so they'll be at worst the 3 seed in the state tournament, which would mean going on the road, but a win against Islands, then they would be hosting the first round of the state. As for the boys, they'll be taking on Windsor Forest. It'd be quite a task. If they were to win, they would host as well. A loss, they'll end up going on the road. As for Statesboro High soccer, they'll be hosting South Effingham on Tuesday for a doubleheader. And as for baseball, Statesboro High ends up knocking off New Hampstead for their second straight region victory. Right now, Statesboro with 3 region wins. They have 2 more games left with New Hampstead coming up on Thursday to secure a state playoff berth and the 4 seed in the region. As for the Portal Panthers, they won a game that they were down 1-0, end up winning 11-1 this week. And for Southeast Bullock, the baseball Yellow Jackets end up knocking off Scraven County on senior night, winning 5-4. Next up for them, they'll host Jenkins coming up on Thursday. Well, that'll wrap it up for now. We thank you for joining us. Hope to see you again next week.